thought this place wasn't for someone like me.
Hello? Anyone there?
Can we roll the trailer?
I want women like you on my team.
Wanna live?
We've all got a past.
It's what you do now that matters.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for the panel with Screen New South Wales and the Sydney Film Virtual Edition, Sydney Film Festival Virtual Edition of the Screenability panel, Mentors, Networks, who you know can seriously help your career. My name is Sofya Gollan and I'm a writer, director myself, and I identify as having a disability. I'm the curator of the Screenability program for the Sydney Film Festival, and I'm also one of the Screen investment managers for Screen New South Wales. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and paying my respect to the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered today. For me, it's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who may be joining us today. So I'm joined by two teams of this year's Screenability program from the film Groundhog Night and Safety Net. And an aspect of the Screenability program was that Screen New South Wales was able to provide support for an outside mentor to work with the creative with disability in the team. And this was done for two reasons: to broaden the networks of the creative with disability so that they could extend their networks outside of their own creative cohort, because often what happens with creative with disability is that it's really hard to reach out beyond the people you know to the greater industry. So, and also to provide extra creative support for the team making the film. And another aspect of the program was that we had an executive producer from industry to oversee all three films, to support the producers and the creative, and to be like a connection between myself, Screen New South Wales, and for the team, you know, good cop, bad cop kind of thing. So this year, Lucinda Reynolds from Made Up Stories was executive producer, and she brought so many valuable resources and connections to the team. And she was actually instrumental in matching up one of the creator-mentor pairing for one of the films. So I'm joined today by Emily Dash. We seem to have lost Emily. Hopefully she will come back in a minute. I'm just going to introduce everyone and hope Emily comes back at some point, because I know that she's calling in from out of Sydney on her mobile phone. So I'm joined Emily Dash with the writer of Groundhog Night, and she was mentored by Becca Johnstone, who doing the final development of the script, and I have Anthea Williams, director of Safety Net, and Gracie Otto, who was one of her directing mentors. So I will introduce Becca first. She's an award-winning screenwriter who'd worked across features and television, both across in Australia and in the United States. Her company, Miss Ollie Films, is devoted to telling stories by women who aren't afraid to make a ruckus. With films currently in development with companies like Made Up Stories and Aquarius Film, Becca loves to work with dynamic female-driven creative teams. Anthea.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So I should let you speak as well. So Anthea is an award-winning director, and she's the director of Safety Net, one of the films in this year's program. She directed productions at Belvoir Street, with the production her winning Best Production and Director at the Sydney Theatre Award, worked in London for the Bush Theatre and was part of Screen Australia's Talent Plus program to work at Causeway Film, the guys who made The Babadook and Nightingale. And Safety Net is her first short film.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
And we have Gracie Otto, who is an Australian film, television, TV series and music video director. She worked across a whole raft of genres. She recently directed the second season of The Other Guy, and she made a feature documentary, The Last Impresario, that screened at the Sydney Film Festival, and she's just finishing up her current feature documentary, Under the Volcano, for screening later this year.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me.
Great. So Emily is the writer and stars in the short film Groundhog Night, and she worked across theatre, film, television. She's also a multidisciplinary artist, and she's presented in places like Barangaroo, Sydney Opera House, Pact, and her first short film was called I Am Not a Work of Art, even though everything she's done to date has been a work of art. And she's worked with Matchbox Pictures, been part of the After Talent Showcase and the Screen Australia SBS Digital Originals to develop a web series. So there we go. We have these four amazing, fantastic filmmakers to talk with us today about mentoring and networks. So what I'd like to do is throw it over to you. And with the first question, I'd like to maybe start with Becca and Emily. If you could talk about the process of how you met or what kind of process you had working on the actual film.
Yeah, should I go first?
Go for it, Em. You take it away.
Yeah, so Becca came on board as the script editor for Groundhog Night, and that's how we met. But in terms of my own process for writing the film, it was a bit of a different one, actually, because it was based loosely on true events in my life. So I came up with that concept, then I developed the characters and things like that. I think that one of the really amazing things about working with Becca is that she really helped to get the tone right, that balance between comedy and drama, and making sure we were getting the most out of the comedic beats without affecting the overall sort of arc of the story and tone that I wanted to go for. So I think that was the kind of main thing that we did together.
Absolutely. And it was a great experience for me. I came in sort of relatively not late, but you know, there'd been a few drafts of script, and it's probably important to note, given sort of the nature of this panel, you know, Emily and I were put in touch by the executive producer, Lucinda Reynolds, by sort of working those networks and those mentorship, you know, roles I'd sort of formed, you know, had gone through with Lucinda's company that she works with, Made Up Stories, you know, with Bruna Papandrea and Jodie Madison, who are people I'd consider mentors of mine, you know. And so I came to Groundhog Night after a few drafts, and the fantastic thing was that in reading Emily's script, we could tell I could tell there was a story there, and I could tell what the intentions were. And I knew from sort of supporting documents that Emily and her director had put together what they were chasing. And so it was great to come in sort of like an editorial, you know, role and really like fine tune that tone. And I think it absolutely shows in the film we ended up with. The tone is wonderful, and I think I'm sure everyone's really happy with it. So yeah,
we are. And Becca was a really great help with that. So it was great to have that mentorship as well. Yeah.
I think before we drill down into some of the aspect of mentoring, I'd like to find out from Anthea and Gracie what kind of process they had, because that was for directing. Yeah.
Should I start, Gracie?
Yeah, you start.
Okay. So Gracie was wonderfully generous with her information and her knowledge. And, Gracie was also I was so grateful that Gracie didn't just talk to me about this production that I was creating in this film. She also talked to me about the industry and how to get the knowledge that I wanted. So, I have a lot of experience in theatre, but this was my first film. So Gracie talked to me a lot about the things that I already knew, what I might want to consider doing in the future. And I think we were kind of delightfully casual, weren't we? Like, Gracie was just very generous with her time, told me that I could call anytime. I showed her multiple drafts of the script, drafts of the film once we were editing. And actually, at one point, Gracie even came into the edit studio and watched a version of the film because she worked just down the road. But it was just so brilliant for me knowing that I had someone on the other end of the phone if I ever got, a question that I didn't have an answer to. But we talked really broadly about careers and how the industry works, how the commercial industry works, how features work, how television worked. I had a lot of questions about the other guy because I just thought Gracie did such a brilliant job directing that series. And we talked really broadly, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, I felt, when I looked at your resume and seen your work that, like, you didn't need mentoring from me, but I understood that the process was that you hadn't done a short film and I'd obviously had more experience on a set, not necessarily directing actors. So for me, it was just about also making you feel like you just sometimes want someone in your corner being like, no, I can do that, or going like, no, I do know this a lot better than most of the people on set because I've lived and breathed it for so long while doing it, like making sure on the day you knew to be like, no, I've got it in the can, I feel confident, I can move on. And kind of that. And then I feel like as friends, we bonded over like potential future projects and like, yeah, because I felt like I had a lot even to learn from you in terms of coming from that theatre space and what I'm trying to do. So it's like, I think what I've found with mentorships in the past is that I've had great mentors and sometimes I've had people come and say, oh, I want to work on this TVC with you. And I look at their resume and I'm like, they've got so much more experience and better credentials than me. And then I kind of go, oh, okay, they want to come in because they're trying to get through the TVC door. And, that's so I think it's interesting with people with their level of experience. I don't think mentorship doesn't necessarily have to be that one person's more experienced or than the other, because you're kind of both getting things out of it. And there's obviously, I could teach you, but there's just as much I learned from you, I think. So
yeah, and I also realised that this is one thing that Gracie does. Like, she keeps everything beautiful and buoyant and easy, but has so much work behind what she does so that, she can have fun when she gets into a room with people performing, which was a really great lesson.
Yeah, and I think that came down to the nature of, the guy you'd cast in the lead role and, having that, what I like to do on set is, make everyone feel relaxed and comfortable so it seems like it's not a big deal, especially when you're working with non-actors. And, with the kid that you were working with, it was important that, like, it seemed like a fun day and a fun experience. And because that seemed to be when you got the best out of him, when he was relaxed and feeling himself.
I think one of the things about a great mentor relationship is cross-fertilisation, because I think possibly for Gracie and Becca, you might not have worked in the disability space before. So I was just wondering, what thought did you have in that before, say, you were approached to be mentor, so to speak?
It was the first time. Oh, Gracie, sorry.
No, you go. I was waiting.
No. It was the first time for me working in the disability space, a hands-on role. So it was. I didn't, it's not that I went in with any preconceived ideas or notions. I went in as someone who understands story, and to give Emily the support she needed, and it was a wonderful experience, and I feel like I came out of it with a deeper understanding of of the challenges in the space, of how we all work through them, and as a writer, going through this with Emily, how to take that and take what I learned and what I witnessed and experienced, and inform those choices I make, in characters I write, and how we develop them, and how to speak to them with truth. It was yeah.
And I think that one of the things I really connected with Becca is that she understood that although disability is a big part of the story, it is just one part of the story, and we connected with what we were doing on so many different levels. The film is about grief and about family and about siblings and about lots of other things like that. So I think we had a lot of fun working with those dynamics as well, and our experiences there as well.
Absolutely. It was finding just the humanity in story, which is what, we all know fundamentally good storytelling is, that human connection, that experience we all understand. This is not about a girl with cerebral palsy. It's about a family in transition. Do you know what I mean? Like this is the core, and more to the point, finding the way to have fun in telling that story, which has some heavy stuff going on, and yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I read the script and I just thought it was so well written and executed, and yeah, I guess I hadn't worked in the disability space per se before, so I didn't have experience in that front to bring as a mentor. But it was just looking at the script as a great script, and where I could help in relation to her directing, and obviously that came into it. The fact that also was the fact that she was going to be working with someone who was still a child in a way, just in terms of like hours on set and making that person feel like, because they get tired, kids in general, no matter what, who the kid is. So for me, it was more just I loved the script, and it was a great opportunity.
I think, to give context to the question, because obviously it's a loaded question, disability-based, they carry a whole heap of connotation that, for example, the mentor is helping the creative with disability when, very clearly, with the 3 short films, the mentors came on board as equal, but with different aspect of knowledge that they could pass on to the creative. So for me, it's very much a two-way street. It's not only about the creative with disability getting some kind of feedback or being a sounding board on some of the processes or creative decisions they want to make in the short film. It was also about exposing people, professionals in industry who would have never worked with creative with disability, and just going, actually, this is a workspace just like any other. It's a creative process just like any other. And recognising that some stories actually do need to be authored by those who have that lived experience of disability.
Absolutely. And look, it was, excuse me, in working with Emily, it was a really tangible two-way street. I came into this, considering I had a pretty decent handle on understanding the challenges, right? And knowing that these stories really should be authored by people who experience them, but also knowing as a writer, my job is to create things and give, try and give voice to these stories as well, and I've been very conscious of not tokenizing, characters with disabilities in my work, and having them there with purpose. But in going through Groundhog Night with Emily, a really tangible example is the thing a series I'm developing at the moment for the US. We, always knew from early on we wanted to have one of these lead characters to be a person with a disability, not in a tokenized way. And in going through this, realizing that the way to do this is to have him be present in this world completely and obviously independent of his disability, and be a character, not have, any perceived prejudice or misconception about, how he is in this world be a driving factor of plot, but have his existence be as rich, as just everyone else we're dealing with, And again, it comes down to making it not a story about disability, making it a story about humanity.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're really great points. I mean, I want to throw to Anthea. You've worked on a number of mentorships now. That you did one with Causeway Films, and you've worked with Gracie, and you've had a couple of other people that you've worked with, and so on. Did you work with them yourself or?
Well, yes and no. Yeah, I've had a number of mentors over the years, and I've also been a mentor. I'm currently a mentor for a young woman, Erin Hine-Marsh, who's a playwright, and I'm doing that for PYT Fairfield. And in some ways, I think there's a great joy in being a mentor. You realise the things that you know. It's a really nice part of the work that I do. There's been quite a few. My Causeway time wasn't actually a mentorship. I was actually paid by Screen Australia to work at Causeway Films in their development department. So I basically went on board and worked with Christina and Sam, and it was remarkable. I was there part-time and came and went around other projects, but I was really there over a year for the full time, and it was just such a great way to really make that jump from theatre to film, and I was incredibly appreciative, and I still have a great relationship with that company. I think, most of the times that I've ended up being someone's mentor, it's been because I've been mentored, it's been because I've been approached, and I think that works very well. But I have had some long-term mentors in my life that have been a far more relaxed relationship that just happened naturally. And working in the UK for a long time, that was absolutely lovely. So when I worked at the Bush Theatre, Bash Bourne, who at that time was the literary director at the National Theatre, was on the board. So he just naturally started talking to me about all the projects that I was doing. And then when I moved to Australia to work as the Associate Director of New Work at Belvoir, he naturally assumed that he would continue that role with me, which was incredibly generous of him. And I just think the more that we can do that in our industries, the better off we will be. Gracie was my mentor that was paid for and supported for by Create New South Wales, and that was amazing. And Rob Connolly also came on board to talk to me about work because he knew me through a colleague, Louise Goff. And Rob had come from a theatre background years ago, so that was incredibly helpful. He reminded me of all the things that I already knew. And I just think the more industries can do that, the better, because these are art forms, but they're also crafts.
I'm just wondering, because in a way these relationships were arranged marriages, if you like, by Screen New South Wales. How did you incorporate that working with the rest of the team, so to speak?
I'm happy to answer that. Gracie was brilliant because she was just so clear that she was working with me and she was in my corner. So it wasn't really... When Gracie came into the rest of the team, it was because I asked her to come in and see a piece. And she very much allowed me to broker what that relationship was going to be, which was absolutely the right decision on her part. But I personally don't really feel like it was an arranged marriage, much as Gracie was suggested to me. I'd seen her work, and I was like, that would be amazing. I love the work that Gracie's done, and I was just so grateful that she was willing to come on board.
I think that for me, Becca I had so much fun working with Becca that I was so excited to tell the rest of my team kind of what we'd done and how much it had influenced me. So that was really good as well.
Yeah, it's a little different being a writer, you know, like sort of having that like a degree of separation from production and what Emily was going to be going through, you know, on set. That's, you know, that's not where I hang out normally, but to be involved in truly in the development process and be on those calls with the producers, with Create New South Wales, and again, similarly, be on Emily's team and advocate for the intention of the script as I knew it. You know, it was good to be, it was great to be having that role behind the scenes of the actual, you know, script writing as well. So.
And we had a whole lot of common references as well that we were working with. So I'd be like, this character reminds me of this person. And she'd be like, oh yeah, I get that. So, you know, that sort of common knowledge was really interesting to translate to the set as well and to the, you know, the final product. So
yeah.
I think
I really don't think that this is going to be a relationship that just ends outside of this program, which I think is the mark of a good mentor and a good mentorship.
Yeah, she knows she can't get rid of me that quickly, you know.
I think just
Exactly.
jump in, I think for me as well, it was like when I did my first documentary, I'd had Jill Armstrong as like a family friend growing up, who kind of ended up being a mentor because I'd edited a film years ago that was at Sydney Film Festival, and she was the judge that year. And I'd since high school seen all my work. And I guess with mentorships, it's like with those relationships in the future, like Jill was someone I called the day I had to hand my feature documentary in, and there was like one person saying one thing and one person saying another, and it was about me being in the documentary myself, which is always a very tricky thing because I didn't necessarily want to be, but it was kind of important for the story. And I was really firm in what I wanted, but I just wanted somebody. So I called Jill. Jill was in Tasmania, and she said, I'm going to have to get on a bus, there's no internet where I am, and go to an internet cafe and watch it. And she did. And she waited that hour and did it and called me. And she said, no, you're right. Because I kind of got to that thing when I was like, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, or I've just completely lost the plot. So stuff like that, I remember Jill being like a great mentor, because I could call on her at the last minute and be like, I don't know, I just need someone to help me without having a different kind of perspective on it.
And I think that's the wonderful thing about having a mentor, is that they can help you remember kind of who you are as an artist and what you're doing.
Yeah, and I also have to say I was really clear that I didn't want anyone else there when I was doing my shooting. I knew that I would get in the zone, and I knew I would have a lot of people who I was going to be looking after, and I knew that it was great to have someone on the phone, but most likely I just wanted to completely focus on that and feel like I was running the day. And
yeah,
Gracie certainly never questioned that, and I'm really pleased that I actually just trusted my instincts and knew that that's what I needed, and it was the right choice.
It's really clear that the four of you had great working relationships with these films, and some of the mentors that you've actually mentioned personally have been great experiences. I'm just wondering, between the four of you, have you got any cautionary tales maybe of working with someone who could have potentially destroyed you or undermined you, or how do you get out of that, for sure?
Yeah, I think people who don't understand, I think, have a good understanding of your abilities and your expectations for yourself, and who you don't trust. I think trust is a really important degree of mentorship, and if you don't have that trust, it can really kind of destroy you and really make you question almost even what you're doing in the industry. So yeah, I've had some kind of disastrous experiences, which and I think it is on some level an intuitive thing. If you don't feel comfortable with someone, you know it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I think it's also really like a symptomatic thing as well of being like in that emerging category, which is in that you are like the desperation of that is real, and you might hit you like I know like one of my first major, like one of my first big jobs as a writer, you know, and sort of someone I met through that process. When it's your first gig and when you're really early in your career, perhaps you ignore those massive red flags, and you think, no, you might look at a person's credits and look at who they've worked with or something and say, no, this person will be good for me. And you I know I sat there and I took it, you know, for a really long time before I realized, actually, this is a toxic mess, and this is really making me question my own ability as a creative. And I think it's very hard when you're really early in your career to have that strength to go, not for me, and walk away, you know? So it's when you find someone who understands you and appreciates what you do and the scope of what you do as well. It's almost, it goes beyond mentorship and it becomes advocacy. Like people who I work with now, who have been my mentors and are still my mentors, you know, they probably wouldn't necessarily like to think of themselves that way. And they are the biggest advocates of my work, you know, and that just, it's just an evolution thing. Mm.
Mentors, I find, can absolutely change your life when you get a good one.
Mm.
What were you saying, Gracie?
I think I had a mental blank. I was saying that I think also it's good going into those things knowing, it's always good when you approach somebody to be a mentor. I mean, obviously they can turn out to be, like your hero can turn out to be your worst nightmare as a mentor. There's obviously that consideration, but going in with a clear plan of what you want to get out of them, because it's like with Anthea, do you want me on set or do you want me in post once you've got everything? Or like, you know, so there's some kind of guidelines to it. So you know where their skills are best going to be used to your advantage. Like, so I think that's kind of important as well going into it. Yeah.
How about you, Anthea?
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't think I have any negative mentor stories because the mentors that I have had have been very clear in their understanding of what their role is. And the mentor relationship isn't to take over and isn't to do something for you and isn't to control the nature of what a project should be. So no, I've had absolutely no negative mentor stories. Of course, in my time as an artist, I've had some times where it's been difficult to work with collaborators or where people have had a different vision about a project. But that actually should be by the by in a mentor relationship. The mentor shouldn't be making any active decisions. They should be supporting you to make your own. So I guess that's why I stayed silent for a while. But it also probably means that I've been very lucky with the mentors that I've had.
I think, one of the key takeaways in terms of determining what makes a good or inappropriate mentor is that, a good one will maybe challenge some of the thought or decisions you have, but ultimately they will support that it is your vision. But a bad mentor will actually make you question whether you should be in the industry at all.
Yeah.
But, I have come across those people where and unfortunately it does happen to creatives with disabilities so much more than anybody else, because literally the space for creatives that are different or diverse is still being fought to occupy in professional industry. So often the question is, well, you can make this thing, but are you really going to have a long-term career, so to speak? And do you deserve one? Do your ideas have that space? But a great mentor can go, well, yes, you've clearly got something to say and you've got a really particular way of saying it. Let's make it the best it can be so it reaches the widest audience.
Absolutely.
Do you, I think we're kind of heading toward a wrap up. What what key takeaways from these particular projects that you've been working on that you'd like to express? We've got the safety net team and the Groundhog Night team.
I just really hope that people enjoy the films. I think, hopefully we've worked hard enough and done enough on them that people will think, it resonates with them and will see themselves represented. And it might allow other people who haven't been in the disability space to think differently, not just about disability itself and how, the lived experience, but also the possibility of mentoring artists with disability, and it might open up opportunities that way if we are quote unquote success stories, so to speak, through this program.
Look, so much. I learned a great deal from doing this film, and I'm really proud of the film that we made. I really enjoyed the process of it. I learned so much about the filming process, how long setups take, why it is that everyone wears shorts when there's about to be 30 people in one tiny motel room, down to how much I loved editing. I didn't necessarily think that was going to be something I enjoyed, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. In terms of our film and working with William, there were a few people along the way who suggested that I work with a young actor who'd done film before, but someone who didn't live with disability, or didn't live with the disability that the character lived with. And I never doubted that the answer to that was absolutely not. I'm not making a film without casting a young person who lives with cerebral palsy. And I have not regretted that decision once. It just wouldn't be the same film without the authenticity of that brilliant young man who is a brilliant performer. And that's a really good thing to know going forward. And having said that, we've made a delightful, fun film. It's interesting when you talk about it being in a disability space. I guess because I've lived with disability since birth, I just don't think about it. It's so much a part of my life. And sometimes I work in spaces where probably very few people identify as having disability. And sometimes I work in spaces where a lot of people do. And it's actually just always about the authenticity of the story and the importance of that. And I'm really pleased that translates into film, and I'm really pleased with the decisions we've made. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to doing the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your sound, Gracie, your sound.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, yeah, you've obviously got, it's a great film. You should be really proud of it. And I think also for the kid, it's going to be such a great, not only showcase for you, but showcase for him and what other children can do within that space as well, because it's he's such a great actor. And yeah, I can't wait to see him see it.
Mm. Totally. I mean, I think it's also about honouring the fact that creative actors, writers with disability have aspiration to professionalism, professional careers, and that's why you cast them. That's why you grow that talent pool, because they absolutely have that to offer, along with a professional ability to do the job.
I know, and if you can't do your first film when you're 13 years old, when on earth can you do your first film? Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great opportunity. I just want to say thank you, because we're wrapping up now, for coming along to the panel Mentors Networks. And I'd like to thank the interpreters, Kylie and Elisa, for interpreting today. And I'd like to thank the Sydney Film Festival for their continued support of the Screenability program. So do go and watch the short film Groundhog Night, Safety Net, and the third one is Diving In. And they're really terrific short films. If you want to stay informed with future initiatives, please sign up to the e-newsletter Screen New South Wales, and you can follow the social media channels, and you can follow Sydney Film Festival on Instagram, Facebook, and of course their streaming platform. So finally, I'd like to thank Gracie, Otto, Becca Johnstone, Anthea Williams, and Emily Dash for taking part and sharing their experiences. And I absolutely know you guys will be making more amazing content for us to see in the future. So thank you very much.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.